how you would make a typical beer. You mix hot water and malt in something called a mash tun. This creates a sugary liquid that you move over to a second container. You move that liquid over to a third container called a fermenting tank. You add yeast, it ferments over the next couple of weeks, and you have beer. To create our bread beer, we replace about a third of the malt in that original tank, the mash tun, with surplus fresh bread that would otherwise go to waste. 1/3 of the food that we produce in the world is going to waste. That's over 1 billion tons of food every year. And the worst culprit of them all is bread. At Toast Ale, we brew our craft beer with fresh surplus bread that would otherwise go to waste. We think toast is the best thing since you know what. To be honest, he had me at beer.
Scale. Can I have a show of hands? If you have a loaf of sliced bread in your house, who lives in a household where that crust, that slice at the first and last end of each loaf, who lives in a household where it does get eaten? Okay, most people, not everyone, but most people. And this is, I'm glad to say, what I see across the world. And yet, has anyone seen a supermarket or sandwich shop anywhere in the world that serves sandwiches with crusts on it? I certainly haven't. So I kept on thinking, where do those crusts go? This is the answer, unfortunately. 13,000 slices of fresh bread coming out of this one single factory every single day. Day fresh bread. In the same year that I visited. So I want you to imagine that these 9 biscuits represent the global food supply. The first biscuit we're going to lose before we even leave the farm, which means that food goes to waste before it even leaves the fields. The next 3 biscuits are the foods that we decide to feed to livestock. They turn 2/3 of that into feces and heat, and we've only kept this one in meat and dairy products. 2 more ends up in the garbage, or ends up in supermarket bins, or ends up in restaurant bins. And we've left ourselves with just 4 biscuits to feed on.
So I want you to imagine that these 9 slices of bread represent the global food supply. The first slice we're going to lose before we even leave the farm. The next 3 slices are the foods we decide to feed to livestock. They turn 2/3 into feces and heat, and we've only kept this one in meat and dairy products. 2 more ends up in supermarket bins or ends up in restaurant bins, and we've only left ourselves just 4 slices of bread to feed on.